Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and for those of you who are new, most of you, this is a 1993 Mitsubishi 3000 GT. I recently sold it to my 17-year-old son, and he's taking automotive at school, and so he has a little bit of experience. So he told me that he had been hearing a little bit of unusual sound, and so he thinks or believes, he doesn't know, but he thinks or he believes it's the timing belt pulley. And I told him not to mess with this, but he's determined because they've been doing some light repaired at the school and then also around our cars here. So he said he can do this. Now he's he's changing the timing belt and many other parts. So it's quite difficult to get to the timing belt, but since he's determined, so he bought all the kits, and he spent a good 3 days, not 24 hours a day, but trying to removing all the accessories just to get to the area. And finally, this is where we are, or where he is. So he's did all by himself, and so basically that's what it is. And he's filming for me, so you will see later on how he did it. And these are all the accessories he removed, and over here accessories, the belt, and then this is the new parts here. Okay, so I'm very proud of him. He's very brave. I would not have done this because I can't remove more than 10 parts doing any type of mechanical work. All right, stay tuned.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and in today's video we are going to be doing the timing belt, the water pump, the timing belt tensioner, the two timing belt pulleys, and the timing belt cover. So we're going to be replacing it as what they call the 60K service, as you should be doing it every 60,000 miles. Well, I have a few thousand miles left until that, but I'm getting timing belt slap, which is the tensioner is becoming loose or failing, and the timing belt is becoming loose also and is slapping around. So that's why I'm doing it a few thousand miles early. I will have all the links down in the description. It is pretty pricey because I'm going the OEM way with the timing belt tensioner, and the pulleys. Now the water pump, nobody sells it OEM, so I have a aftermarket one, but it has a lot of good reviews and should fit. So this is how we are going to be doing the 60K service on my 93 3000 GT. As you can see, I already have it pretty disassembled already. I just got all the easy and simple stuff out. As you can see, I have the timing belt covers off, the front and rear one. I've already started disassembling the engine mount. And a tip for this is to use WD-40 at least a week before you know you're going to do this job. Before you start doing this job, it will make it a ton easier, as these are 30-plus-year-old cars and everything has probably never been taken off before. Another thing, as you can see, I have the belts off. If we go under, you can see it clear. I have all the pulleys off. I also have the crank pulley off, which you will need. And up here, let's see, right up there would be the tensioner for the power steering pulley, which you will need to, like right up there, you will need to remove. So, as you can see, since I'm doing the engine, I have the jack and a block of wood right under the oil pump. Now, you do not want to start jacking up the whole vehicle while it is just on the oil pump. All you want to do is jack it up until there's tension, so it will hold the engine in place as you remove the engine mount. So there is three 17 mil bolts, these three. There's two 14 mil bolts on this side, and in the corner way back there, down there, there is one 17 mil bolt that you'll have to use a angled wrench for to get to, because no ratchet and socket will be able to fit down there. So let me remove this. So I have officially removed the engine mount. Since I used WD-40, it was very easy to take off. None of the bolts were rusted on there, and the threads don't look that bad, but they will always clean up with the wire brush. So now I have to remove this pulley down here to gain access to a bolt that holds on this bracket for the motor mount. So you will need to remove this bolt right here, which is a 14. Then come on the other side, you will need to remove this bolt right here, which is a 17. And then this bolt down here, which is a 14. Now this will be a little bit tricky because my angled wrench is too thick to fit into the tiny hole, and I have the socket, but of course the ratchet is too big to fit in there. So I'll come over here and I have this bar. I don't know what it's called, but I'll probably link it down in the description. I've been having it for a few years now. So this is like just the right width to fit down there, but of course I can't get it on with the socket. So I'm gonna figure it out and I'll get back to you on how I did it. All right, so I have got the pulley off. Oops, as you can see, it is out the car, and man, this was a pain to get to. I'll say this is probably the hardest thing so far in this entire job to get off. So what I ended up doing is I used this, which I actually found the box. It is a serpentine belt toolkit by Pittsburgh. So I'm pretty sure you can find this at any Harbor Freight, but you might want to check online because I don't know if they discontinued it or not. And then for the socket, I used, let's see if I can get a frame. It's not focusing, but it's a 9/16 socket and it's short to fit. And what I ended up having to do is take off this clamp for the, I believe, power steering lines right down here. As you can see, the clamp would go right here where this little hump is. It would clamp down on this. So let me show you what it looks like underneath. So as you can see, the line right here, I tucked it under the bracket. You can't really see it because it's tucked under and hiding it, which just barely gave me enough room. You can see it kind of scratched the line, but it will be all right, which barely gave me enough room to access the bolt with the, I guess you could say, flat bar in the socket to unscrew it, which was hard and a long process, but I got it off. So now I can access the engine mount bracket that was hiding right behind it. So, just so you know where the bolt is, this is the top of the bracket. That right there was where the pulley is. And if we go down here, you can see the head of the bolt. My finger is pointing to it right there. So it will be hard to get to, but we will figure it out. And I believe this one is another 17 mil socket or bolt head. Alright, so as you can see, I got all the bolts out of the engine bracket, but you gotta unbolt the alternator. As you can see, there's 2 bolts for the alternator bracket, and if you follow it, it comes around and it goes right in front of the engine bracket. So I can't pull the engine mount bracket off because you can see it blocks it. So I will have to unbolt this, then I guess just slide it over, and then I can pull this bracket off. So at least we're making good progress, and I'm figuring it out for you guys. Alright, so as you can see, the engine bay is a lot more teared down. I have got the engine mount bracket off. As you can see, there's these 2 bolts in the front down at the bottom. Now this first one you can get out without removing the alternator, but the second one further back, you will have to remove the alternator, or at least get it to the point where you would take it out. So what you have to do is remove these bolts, which you should have already done. Then this 12 mil bolt that bolts up to the alternator down there. And if we come right down here, there's another 12 mil bolt that you don't take off, but you loosen, which will allow this bracket to move up, and you can use it as a handle to make it easier to move around the alternator around. Another thing is you have a bracket that bolts up to the cylinder wall or cylinder head. This is bracket would go right here, so you'll have to remove the 2 14 mil bolts on top. Then underneath are 2 12 mil bolts that you will need to remove to pull this bracket off, which gives you more room. The next thing you will need to do is unplug the fan wires. You might be able to see down there, those are where it connects. So you plug these off to give more room. Then last but not least, you will need to remove the top radiator supports on both sides. As you can see now, I have more room to push the radiator to help get the alternator out, because it is a super tight fit. As you can see, I also had to move the AC line. Now many people say to discharge the system and completely disconnect it, but as you can see, I'm a backyard or garage DIY man, so I don't have those fancy machines. So what I did is I removed a bracket from here. This is it. This right here is a 10 mil bolt. This is a 13 mil bolt, which unclamps it from right here. This right here is another 13 mil bolt or nut, sorry, which unclamps it from here. And in the back, you have these 2 10 mil bolt or nuts, sorry again, that go right here and right there. And as you can see, after that, you can just lift this whole AC line up out the way. And I use a wrench with the box end on the vacuum brake booster and the opened end holding the line up, which allowed me to move the alternator out the way and gain access to the nut that held in the bracket. So now I'll have room to properly torque it down once I reinstall. But more importantly, I have removed everything I needed to do the timing belt and water pump job. So now the next thing I'll need to do is put the engine in time, or where the first cylinder is at top dead center. Okay, so quick little update. As you can see, nothing much changed up top, but since I'm doing the water pump right now, I am draining the coolant, as you can see. So there's a little, let's see if you can see it, petcock valve up there. So you just loosen that up and it will start draining. And once it's draining, you want to take off the cap for the coolant, which will let air into the system, and it'll replace the coolant going out, so it'll be faster. Now, I will have to lift up the rear of the vehicle since it's at a incline like this. As you can see, the system holds about 2 gallons, and this is maybe two or 3 quarts. So we still have a lot left to drain out, especially we're doing the water pump. So I want to get most of it out in the pan and not when I take this out and it just runs all over the place. So let me jack up the rear. All right, so as you can see, I have the vehicle lifted and leveled out. Now it did help a little bit for more coolant to come out, but the only way to fully drain the system is to really pull the block drains. There's one on the front side and back. I believe it's somewhere in line with the second cylinder of the head, or the middle one. So right in there, and I believe in the same place in the back, but that's going to be a pain to get to. I did want to try before I took off the water pump, because once I take that off, just imagine coolant will be going everywhere. So I guess there's really no way to avoid it, but I've got, I don't know if you can see there, but for me, it's 3 quarts of coolant out the system. I believe the system is 7.8 quarts, or almost 2 gallons. So I did get almost half, which is good. So now I'm going to put it in some window washer fluid bottle. You just want to dispose of this properly and not just put it in the ground. All right, so now I have the old coolant in the bottle properly labeled, so I can go to my local auto shop and get rid of it. The next step is to align the timing marks. As you can see, the previous shop who did this job used a white paint pen, which makes my life easier because it's more visible. And if you go down under, you may be able to see it, but there's little arrows, one right here and one right there, and you want to align both of those dots with the arrow on the front bank and the rear bank, and have everything lined up at the same time. Also, down here you have this little, I don't know what you would call it, like flap, that you want to line the cam gear mark, or the crank shaft timing mark, with this. So once all the timing marks line up at the same time, you are at top dead center for cylinder 1. And after that, I'll be able to use my cam lockers to put in between the cams so they won't shift, and I'll be able to pull the timing belt off and go along the process. So let me get this engine in time. I have put the engine in time. As you can see, the white marks line up with the arrows on the valve cover on the front and back. The back is just a little bit harder to see since, of course, the brake booster or brake master cylinder is in front of it. And on the bottom, if you can see, the notch is lined up with the little marking on the block. So the engine is in complete time. So now all we have to do is install the cam lockers in between the front and rear cams to lock those in place. So when we take the timing belt off, once the cam lockers are in, we are going to loosen the bolt on the pulley right there. Then next, we will take off the hydraulic tensioner and then fully remove that pulley, which will loosen up the whole timing belt, and we will be able to take it off. Alright, so now we have taken out the tensioner and I've loosened the tensioner pulley. So now we're going to slowly remove the timing belt. As you can see, everything is under a lot of tension. So there's no going back now. All right. You can stop. As you can see, we have the timing belt off. We have the tensioner off, which was two 12 mil bolts. These two right here I'm touching. Then we took the timing belt tensioner pulley off, which was one 14 mil bolt. You might want to loosen this bolt when the tensioner is still on, so it'll hold it in place, because as you can see, this pivots to provide more tension or less tension. And then over here we have the tension, the idler pulley for the timing belt, which was a 14 mil bolt. Now we will take off the water pump, which is the small 10 mil bolts all the way around, and then there is four 12 mil bolts, two right here and then two on the other side. So another thing is, you will want to put cardboard down on the floor because it will spill out, and as you can see, I have two trays to catch some of the coolant. So let's get to it. Oh! Okay, so as you can see, we've got the water pump off, and a few of the earlier shots you saw how big of a mess it made. It just all gushed out. Now, there was paper gasket all over this where it bonds to the block, so I had to use a razor to scrape that off, and then I'm going to use a wire brush to get the remaining off to make sure it's a nice clean surface. And if we come over here, we have the old water pump. As you can see, I have to reuse this backing plate because the new one does not come with it. And I'll also need to clean up all that gasket material. As you can see, it's still all left over. So this may take me 1 or 2 hours to do, but I'll get back to you when it's time to put it back on. So I have cleaned off the gasket surface. As you can see, it looks a lot better. And I tried to get most of the scale out, but the places that are left, the brush couldn't fit. And another thing too is you want to clean the gasket surface in here, as an O-ring will go in there. So I got actually all of it out, just has some discoloration from the old O-ring being burnt up in there. So there is marks where I had to clean, and then there's a few spots of pitting. So I have this gasket maker or RTV, and I'm going to add a thin layer all around here to help close it up. And I'll still be using the gasket, and then I'll just put the new water pump on top of this and clamp everything down. As you can see, the water pump is back together. The instructions say to immediately put it back together and only tighten the bolts hand tight. Then an hour later, come back and fully torque them down, which I believe these bolts will be torqued down to 7 foot-pounds, which isn't a lot, but that's what I can find. And then you have to wait 24 hours to let it fully cure. Then you can add coolant back in it, but there will be no problem waiting 24 hours because I still have to put the car back together. So now we just have to wait. So now I have properly torqued down the bolts since it's been an hour. The next step is to add RTV around that port and that one. As you can see, there's pitting all around it. So I'm just going to add RTV to make sure it does not leak. Same thing in here, you want to clean out because a O-ring goes in here and you do not want that to leak. Same thing on the block side. You see, I cleaned off the mating surface as best I could with the wire wheel. And if you see back in the valley of the engine block, you will notice that pipe. There's a black O-ring that goes around it, and you'll want to take a pick, such as this one. It's just a normal 90-degree pick, and you'll want to take off that O-ring wire brush around where it sits and replace it with a new one. I also ended up vacuuming the area all over here because there was dirt and old paper gasket, and I don't want that to be burning off when I start the engine. Finally, you'll want to take some brake clean in a clean paper towel. I just used shop towel, not this one because it's dirty, but I just went all around, cleaned all the surfaces on the block and the water pump. So now I'll add gasket or RTV around the hole right here, around this one. Then I'll put the gasket on there, then add another one around here and around here. that will be on top of the gasket. Then I'll fit the water pump in the spot, then finger tight all the bolts. So now we are going to be putting back the pulleys. So this idler pulley, you'll torque it down to 35 foot-pounds. Then we will need to put back the tensioner, which will be, I think, the same 35 foot-pounds. Then we're going to put the smiley face pulley, and we're just going to finger tight the bolt down, and I'll show you why once we get it on. So as you can see, I have the new water pump on. It was difficult to get in and align all the bolts, but what you want to do first is to line up the hole with the tube that's in the middle of the block and push it all the way in till you can't go any further. Then you want to start threading in every single bolt, and don't just tighten one bolt all the way down then start to try to put another bolt down. So everything's torqued down now. So the next step is adding the 2 timing belt pulleys and the tensioner. Now I have the pulleys on. So the back one right there, the idler pulley, is 35 foot-pounds. The tensioner bolts are actually